I think the main thing to focus on is that, my client, he's not a convicted felon or anything. He does, carry a weapon, but he has a right to do so because he does work on construction projects. He does have a side job also, well as home repair. So there's nothing criminal about that. And I believe from the witnesses that we were able to talk to, Mr. Baker on that day did have a weapon. And actually, Mr. Campbell was at the residence first, visiting with Mr. Williamson. And then Mr. Baker came over. Mr. Baker started an argument, pulled out his firearm, and Mr. Campbell stated to him, "I don't want any trouble. I basically paid you for what is owed. I mean, if you got a problem with that, I don't know what basically to do, but I repeatedly told you I paid you what you've been owed." But Mr. Baker still threatened my client and shot him. He shot him in the left side of his abdomen, and I got to kind of go back for a minute. Mr. Campbell actually chewed tobacco, and during the verbal, discussion, my client actually turned to the sink. Basically, for those that chew tobacco, understand at a certain point in time you have to spit, and then he turned and had his actually back to Mr. Baker, and then that's when Mr. Baker took the opportunity to shoot him in the abdomen. There's an entrance wound right about here. There's no exit wound. Actually, the doctors, once he went to Piedmont, did not want to take a chance to remove the bullet, and you can actually see the bullet protruding in his back, probably a couple of centimeters from the left side of his spine. I actually was able to see that today when I talked to Mr. Campbell. But back to the incident, Mr. Baker fired first, shot Mr. Campbell in the side there, and then actually shot Mr. Campbell in the hand. That's why if you saw him when he came out this morning, he had a cast on his right hand. And then my client returned fire, shooting Mr. Baker several times in the chest. But also what's important to note, what I think is very important, that my client left the location and actually called 911 and stated in the 911 call, basically not knowing whether he was going to die or not, made a dying declaration that, hey, I'm here on Walker Street, I'm about to pass out. Mr. Baker shot me, Sharon Baker shot me, I've been injured, I'm walking here on the street, please get me help. And basically there's a conversation between him and the 911 operator with him telling them where he was located, and then he passed out. And then he basically woke up in the ambulance, passed out again, and then he's at the hospital in surgery. What happened to his firearm, I don't know. Maybe a passerby took it. Maybe when he was taken in the ambulance, may have got lost in the translation of him going from the street into the ambulance to the hospital. Or, like I said, so maybe a passerby took it. I mean, we're not disputing that obviously he fired the shot. The issue is that he shot in self-defense. So regardless if the weapon is found or not, I think it's actually irrelevant due to the fact that there were two different types of shell casing found. So there were two different weapons, and even regardless of Mr. Baker firearm not being found, we know there was two weapons involved. So really the whole issue is whether or not it was self-defense.